Well, hello people, and welcome back to part 15 of Khai, our modded CS2 island build. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Now, last episode, we got the metro running across the island, which looks absolutely wonderful. So nice to see some real high-density public transport moving around. But in today's episode, we turn our attentions back toward the industrial supply chain, which is threatening to become unhappy. So looking at our material goods, most things are in pretty decent balance. However, the bottom half of this table isn't looking so healthy. We have enormous coal deficits due to the coal plants that are now burning in the harbour, and then rock, metal ore, and crude oil are also in need of some support as well. We won't be doing crude oil today, but definitely these bottom three resources we're going to be extracting from a major ore mine. So we're going to put this on the hillside here. Now, if we actually have a look at our natural resources, we can see we are inundated with coal. Besides this fact, we also have the ability to paint our own down as well, but we'll do that if we need to. But we're going to be placing this kind of shrouded from the rest of the city, if you like. So the people that are living in ignorant bliss in the college town here by the water and having a wonderful time, little do they know that, you know, just over the hillside here, there's going to be an enormous scar in the earth, which is going to be a really cool vibe, I think. So we have this national road here. This connects into the national highway over here. And it also does it over here as well. So it's kind of the perfect road, really, for what I want to sit around here. So I'm going to bring in a road. Let's turn on our topography first of all. This is going to be very important today. We're going to dig out the chunk where it's at its most steepest. So I'm going to have my mine entrance roughly here. And then we're going to come off to the side and we'll prepare some parking for larger trucks that aren't heading straight into the mine. Perhaps, you know, there's a little bit of an administration office, somewhere to drop papers off and whatnot. I just want to level that out and give it a fair bit of room. We get some custom car parking in here. I'm just going to do a little road pattern. Cool, so we've got a little bit of an entrance and we can place our initial services here. So with the pit mine, I want to have possibly the lowest point sorted first. So I'm probably going to put that roughly around here, I reckon. Let's go down quite a bit as well. So this is going to be the deepest point of the mine. Let's just carve out a channel here. Let's also go to 100% brush strength for this. Of course, with any major terraforming work, it's always going to look very janky before it begins to look good. I'm just going to dig out the bottom pit. So let's do... How are we feeling about kind of steepness here? So if we're sat at the bottom of the pit, we're looking that high up. Say we could possibly even justify a tiny, tiny little bit deeper. Although, no we can't. Because it turns out that is the very bottom of the map. So I guess that is our very bottom point. So, alright, that's fine then. So let's just square this off roughly. I want to make sure we have a decent amount of room so we can actually have enough room to place down the ore extractors. So when we come up to generate our next layer, what I want to do here is just grab a gravel road. And I'm just going to use this now to kind of essentially demarcate that very bottom layer. I'm going to choose some different shapes and sizes. Don't want it to all just be square boxes, but whatever it is. Something like that should be okay, right? I'll be happy with that. And now I'm just going to use MoveIt to grab all of those nodes. And then just a few presses of page up and down. I'm just going to start to elevate it up. Essentially just till I get that cliff tearing texture there. I think I'm probably happy with that. Maybe a touch more. And then once I have this layer in, I'm just going to grab it with the height control. Then bring it up to that same layer. And essentially just run that all the way along the outside without encroaching upon that middle tier. Now I'm happy for little lumps and bumps to generate around here. You know, stuff like that is absolutely fine. You don't have to go totally flush against it. But this is going to be the process I'm going to use to generate the shape of the strip mine. Essentially what we did all the way back in that modular build for Cities Skylines 1 all those years ago, when we first constructed the pit mine using the Industries DLC. So now I'm going to bring down a road here, feed this right up against the edge. And then let's get in our first specialized industry. So we'll do, I think, just regular stone mining here. We do have some ore. We'll tell you what, while we have ore here, then let's do coal instead. Cool. So that gives us our first area. Obviously, he doesn't have a connection yet, but at some point he will, at least. Cool. So now let's go ahead and construct a bit of an entrance. So if we're going to have our main pit mine forming around here, let's just go ahead and grab all of that and push it out roughly to the shape we want to fill today. I wouldn't mind it also kind of coming back around here with the idea of leaving in a little bit of the natural hillside that was here before it was all ripped out. Just so it gives the pit mine a bit more of an interesting shape, I think. Maybe not this close to the national road as well. Yeah, something like that. Maybe a little bit over here as well. And I think we'll have this way here as our entrance into the pit mine. So let's do a slope tool. Right click our way in. And then just a little snaky slope, and we'll make this look a lot more dirty and man-made during the detail and time lapse today. That should be fine. And then with our road, we'll have this one snake down, and this can also connect into multiple of the other layers as we form them up in a time lapse that is incoming imminently. That can go into there. At least now that business down here has a connection. It should fill up pretty quickly, I think. Yep, there we go. Grinder Rock will be producing coal for us. And yes, you won't have any resources here, will you? Because they don't have their upgrades. So speaking of power, actually, looking at the inspiration I'm taking from Google Earth, this coal mine, or stone mine, whatever it actually is, does have its own wind turbine, which I find really interesting. Now, unfortunately, a lot of the speed around here is really, really low. So it looks like we probably won't be able to get that in. Yeah, even over here, it's all super low, isn't it? Which is a real shame, because I would have quite liked to have factored that in, but unfortunately there's not a huge amount I can do about it. Even atop the hill, it's still really low. Which is fine. I suppose we can leave that out. So we'll just bring power in the normal way instead then. But either way, now we have the concept of how we're going to tear up the strip mine. Let's go ahead, get services connected into this business, and then we're going to time-lapse up the formation of the rest of the pit layers. So we'll be right back. So we can see a general shape starting to form now, which is tremendously exciting, of course. And it's going together quite nicely. I think we'll maybe do a few more tiers around this back lump that we've got. But otherwise, it's starting to form. In terms of what we're going to do with the green grass, so you can see what we've done a little bit here. Now, I think we're just going to play with some grotty texture, I think. So this is just the riverbed stuff. So I'm using the bucket tool mod, which is amazing, which allows you to add this area bucket fill to any surface you like. Then you see as you hover over it, it fills it in. Now, it's not always 100% accurate. I'll try to find an example where it might mess up a little bit. Well, of course, it does it perfectly there, doesn't it? But you can kind of see how it adjusts to the space you fill. And it's amazing. If you at all enjoy playing with surfaces, I would highly suggest using the area bucket mod. So we'll fill a lot of these spaces in with Riverbed Dark, which I think will just make the land look a little bit more used, won't it, compared to that fresh green texture that we get without any surface there. I think that'll really help blend all of our layers together, won't it? I think it will. I've also done some more lump terraforming in some of the stone mines as well. They're not all perfectly flat. But otherwise, it's okay. So before we move into what will be a mass detailing time lapse, we'll have a little look at that actually. Let's come into our FindIt. So we'll search for rubble, which will give us a whole bunch of rubble piles. So we can do probably a lot of detail along this kind of line. Bring in different ones. There's actually a random, which is quite nice. And let's not forget some boulders as well. We'll have random boulders like this. And then we can just create these rockier outcrops across the strip line. It just serve to add a little bit more texture into this area. Could also use the forest brush here, I suppose, as well, if you wanted to. Or the prop brush, I suppose, in this instance. Might be a little bit faster way of filling it in. There we go. Probably turn off Anarchy. Maybe we don't collide with the roads or something like that. And then we can probably do the same with some of the rubble as well. I do think the rubble's better off being more finely placed, I think. So we can get involved in plenty of this during our detailing time lapse. Try and make some like authentic looking rock slides as well. Maybe where, you know, the mine has kind of gave in a little bit. I don't think I'd be against that. And of course, making the mining deposits actually large enough to see vehicles moving around is always a nice aesthetic, very similar to what we did with the farms, you know, make them wide enough so they actually come alive, I think is a nice aesthetic to add into the build, isn't it? I think anyway, we hope. Well, let's have a little look at our entranceway here. So there is actually a very brief street view in the mine that I'm taking inspiration from. And you can just about see where kind of trucks arrive and obviously park up before heading down into the mine to be loaded. And that's something I'd like to replicate. So I want to create a little bit of kind of a steep cliff edge here. With the aim to create some sort of truck parking, I think is what I want to go for. So let's grab, don't need a lot of them, maybe 4 or 5, something like that, of our ploppable dome parking lots, which is an asset pack we're mostly familiar with now. We use it in Edinburgh as well. And then we'll put a little bit of pavement down here. However, I think if we're going to use pavement in any area across this particular build, it is going to need a ton of decals on it. So lots of stains, grime, tears and cracks and whatnot. I think it would really hurt the aesthetic of the build if we leave it to be quite clean. Then let's grab our other surface. We'll do a riverbed. Probably be able to fill this one on area bucket. There we go. You can kind of see how it responds. It's not always an exact science, but you can make do with it most of the time. And then around the edge of these parking spaces, it looks like in the mine I'm looking at, it's almost like they've taken stone from the mine to have it function as a bit of a barrier to stop trucks going over the edge, which I really like. It's kind of like, you know, they're using whatever's available to them. They haven't waited for some kind of fence to be put up there. It's just like, oh, just grab some stones from the mine, make sure that these trucks don't go over the edge, which I think is a really cool way to use some of the stone props, I think. And then I do want this to remain quite a harsher cliff edge, so I'm going to dig that back right up to the edge. And then just do a little bit of soften. Something like that is generally what I'm after. And then let's go ahead and grab some vehicles. We'll grab... I don't think we can actually get the trucks, can we? But we can get the trailers. Can actually place the mining trucks as well, which we'll do. Maybe set up a kind of waiting area for these guys here. We were to have a few of them in, waiting and ready to go. Well, that's not what I'm here for. Let's just not get distracted. Truck trailer, although I don't really want the tanker though. I'd rather have, I guess, a flatbed in this instance. Or some kind of truck, so I suppose the log trailer is the most appropriate, I think, is it? Possibly. I guess since we don't have the truck, then these would actually be reversed into the bays, wouldn't they? Rather than the truck facing into the stone, I think. So let's do it like that. I think that should be roughly what I'm after. Just some trucks waiting to head down, be loaded and whatnot. I think I'd be happy with that. Really like the little stone barrier there. Cool. Oh yes, and there we go. People heading down into the mines. Very exciting indeed. Of how the swooping down what was once upon a time was a natural valley. Kind of then down into the man-made pits of Khai's quarry. Very thematic. So I also want some industry around here as well, because we do have a fair bit of it in demand. However, I'm going to zone this, and we'll have a number of them. Let's do one there as well. Rather than me place it with FindIt, I think when we're doing this, I'd rather the game decide what comes in here so it can work on its production chains a little bit more efficiently, rather than me deciding if it's warehouse or storage or whatnot. I will work with whatever the game decides it wants here. And I think I also want to extend this little elevated area here too. Cut back in from this road. Something like that. Yeah, that's pretty much perfect. And then just extend a little bit more service out here, so it's come back to our dirt road at this point. And then we'll have this run right up again alongside that cliff face. We'll do some more rocks here with parking, again overlooking the strip mines from this direction. And then I will place some industry here, so let's come into our buildings and grab some... do we want to possibly consider a unique factory, I wonder? The ground earth plant, of course, would be very appropriate. It does want rock and will produce minerals. Also gives plus 10% to ore deposits citywide as well, which is rather fancy. It also gives a great drive-by from the little national road we got going through here as well, doesn't it? Okay, I don't think here though. I think maybe more just on the corner here. Something to that extent. Let's go ahead and grab an alleyway. And that should keep everyone happy. We'll also upgrade that to alley as well. Ooh, yeah, I think we'll go with that there. Rotate it a little bit. Bring everyone flush and we'll do some finer texture work in the time-lapse. Yeah, so I like that this big industrial processing unit is just visible from the road here. I think we'll enjoy a bit of that. Regardless, what I actually came in to find it to do is just to find some little warehouse numbers. So we could do, yeah, I don't need the 6x6, it's too big. Yeah, I think I'm just after these small little manufacturing sheds. They will instantly fill with businesses, so let's also do a little bit of better Bulldozer. I'm just going to trim everything off of them. Well, at least the fences anyway. And then if we can find a happy fusing somewhere around there, I just want these to be a continual warehouse unit. The Bulldozer stuff will pop back up while you're moving it, but when you let go, it should all pop back in. Cool. Now we got kind of a larger warehouse unit there. I'm happy with that. I definitely want some kind of like props and vehicles to be visible from the national road as well, so I think we'll extend a little bit more surface back there, something like that. And let's have a dirt road come down beside the factory. And then just follow that contour line. That's perfect. Come up behind here if you like. Might as well go straight back in. Let's get some surface down here. And then let's find some industrial props. So things like maybe the blast hole drill that is stored behind here. Sure, we can also get a number of other ones in. Let's do maybe some mining excavators that are here for maintenance. So they do have the animation, don't they? Well, how about no then? We'll just stick to the mining trucks. But some big yellow numbers, I think, visible from the national road would be quite welcome. Then just to tie off that vibe, yeah, we'll grab some net lanes. Let's do some fencing, and then we'll just have this run flush with the road. Some of that industrial chain link fencing. And then let's have that run alongside the back of the factory. Join it with that one. There's a little bit of terrain tearing there we need to sort out. There we go. Touch of soften. And then I think we'll grab some smaller bushes. So let's do some wild green bush. That's what needs to be littered around the fence, so it looks like it is starting to overgrow a little bit. It's generally scattered. And probably some more riverbed texture will also go just for making that land look a little bit more overgrown as well. And I wouldn't even mind actually including some logs here. Kind of similar to what we did with the forestry area, for those that remember that. Let's come on to a brush here, where we added the obliterated forest. Almost as though, you know, it is actually what's left of the forest. So where we forest brushed all this away. Now I know that's not the final configuration, but maybe we can do it, let's say here, for example. You know, this was once forest, but has now been obliterated to become an industrial strip mine. And what once, well, what is left of nature is now here, if you like. It's been blown away. Destroyed, felled, and collapsed of its own free will, I suppose. Something like that. And then loads of riverbed texture around. Probably don't need the area bucket for this one. Let's run that generally across the obliterated forest shape. And then bring in some forest that still remains just against that. A nice mix of trees in here. Try to stick to some of the palms as well. Remembering I do need to use more of them in Khai. And then cool. That should give us a nice drive-by now of that kind of obliterated forest. Obviously this is a very rough example. We'll tidy up the edges, but you kind of go from the road to the forest to what was forest to dirty industry that now rips apart the landscape. Here's the vibe I want to create. Pretty much. But otherwise, it feels like a good point for a mega detail in time. That's now run over most of the principles here. I think I'm going to do one more layer here. Looking at the strip mine, I'm taking inspiration from there seems to be 5 layers, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 at the moment, with this being the highest. So one more tier, I think. And then loads of terraforming work and a significant amount of prop work. In terms of our production chains, we're now positive for metal and rock, but we still need quite a bit more coal. How much do we have in them hills? Still quite a bit. So I reckon maybe this darker spot here is where we'll get a final ore, coal pocket in rather. And try bring that deficit back into line a little bit more. Otherwise, let's detail up Khai's strip mine, and then we'll be right back. Alright guys, let's have a little view around the strip mines of Khai, shall we? So settled in, I would say really nicely, but these things are horrendous scars on the earth, but none of us would be here watching this video if it wasn't for these types of industries, so I think there's a lesson in there for us all, isn't there? Regardless, it does sit in really nicely against the landscape, if that is the word. And I really love how the mountains and the hills kind of protrude into the mine almost. You can see where they've been cut out following ore veins, leaving behind what once the natural landscape, kind of piercing into that industrial landscape now. So I'm really happy with the shape of it. But the metro swooping through from, of course, its last stop at the port. We will add another stop in for the town of Tigan, which will lie over here, which will probably be next episode now. We're kind of heading this direction. And then lots of obliterated forest underneath this metro line as it does come through. Ended up shortening this ore deposit here, or stone mine, just because I wanted to have a bit more distance between the public transport network and the line. But they have a very dramatic view here as you take the metro from Tigan to Sully, which is very cool. And then added in a embanked section as well as a bit more of a support against some slightly more uneven ground. And then lots of fence work and texture work against the road, and I really love the view here, especially you just kind of see what's going on behind the tree line if you're in a car. And definitely the same vibe over here again too, where that fence extends. You can just see piles of rubble, little glimpses of industry. Decided to go for the wind turbine in the end. It makes no power basically. It's on like 12% efficiency, I think. So it's a terrible idea, but the mine I'm taking inspiration from has one, so I really wanted to include it. At the entrance to the mine, we have some classic toll booth detailing, where we sweep around into our industry, which has been better bulldozed and had some further assets added onto it, which really expands the footprint of an industrial zone, doesn't it? I really like using those buildings in this fashion as an extension of whatever you zone in. It's these are great little detailing assets. These, I'm so glad these are in the vanilla FindIt. They're really handy. Lots of trucks lined up, ready to go out on shift whenever they're needed, alongside some more of those vibes over here again as well. Just smaller inner facility around the entrance into the industrial centre. Through here we have just aligned the, was it Crush Earth, whatever it's called, and it's actually called Onshore, which is incredibly nice partnered with the wind turbine there, isn't it? So I really like that. That's a nice kind of happy coincidence. I think we'll probably even take a little screenshot of that one right there, right? But either way, very nice. And then as its textures extended all the way down to the road, with some further detailing here, we've got a couple of storage units in. One of these filled with rocks ready to be processed at the factory. And then around the base of the turbine, just orientated it so it faces into this little warehouse complex. Fenced it in, extended the textures, and then dropped in some props around the edge of it. Which turned out very nicely. Really like the bottom look of the turbine here. Like, that's a great shot there of the facility, isn't it? I'll take a picture of that as well, I think. And then another parking lot over here that looks out upon the mines themselves, which are very big, and in terms of what they've done for our production chain, it's put us into positives for all of them now, with a fairly hefty positive of 6.6 for metal ore in the city. So that's helping reduce our import costs and whatnot, and just helping everyone get jobs. And then you've also got the zoned industry across the facility giving more jobs as well. Zoned in a little bit more down here as well at this level. And then just little rock pattern. Kind of using the materials they've got to hand, you know. I feel like they definitely, well, we've seen that today in the Google Earth pictures, that is what they do. And then just some parking and extended prop work around the back of these factories. And then there's also some storage yards in the middle of the mine itself. Some rocks, rubble, overgrowth threatening to poke back through. Another storage site over here with just rock fields in amongst all the little nooks and crannies. Overgrowth piercing back through where it's been left for a long time. I kind of re-chiseled the back mountain as well. Wanted some more flatter, plateauy, slopey spaces there rather than just a whole flat face. But a little bit of softening and slope work did quite nicely there as well. And then the obliterated forest vibe at the entrance to the mine as well, where it's always been carved out. But either way, a really fun facility, lots of detailing, and it's managed to help balance out our production chains, which is always nice to help keep everyone happy in the city in the simulation. We'll definitely get on with the new town next week. I think we've got some good content creator packs now with the UK pack basically coming out in a couple of days, so the time you guys see this video. So keep an eye out for an episode of Edinburgh on Monday alongside Rannoch for that as well. Should be a lot of fun. So I reckon we'll have some UK fun in Khai over at the next town, a brand new town centre using some of the new assets. Might be a lot of fun. And a chance to bring that metro in as well. Massive shout out to all the patrons that support the channel with a special roll call to Andrew Perez and O'Higgs, our golden eggs. Thank you for all your support, legends. If you want to get involved in that, links are always down below. Otherwise, please do enjoy today's cinematics, but I'll shut up and leave it there. Let's thank you all so much again for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.